welcome to the show. Our guests tonight, the masked men. Will you give them a round of applause? Where are they coming? So, obviously, I'm a massive fan of your work. I know everything you've done, all of the films, all of the albums. But if you could just give the audience out there just a little bit of context about who you are.
So, my name is Pablo. I'm a member of the Masked Men, and I play the music that comes from the bottom of my heart.
Hi, I'm Kieran. I'm also part of the Masked Men. I like playing Zelda.
I'm Harry. I'm Masked Men. I record music, video, mix the songs, edit the shots, manage the team. Quite a few things.
You also help build rapport with our public.
That too.
So, using the word group, it's hard to pin down what actually you are. So, are you a band, a collective of some kind?
It's more like a collective, yeah.
More like
a band. Because a band would be more focused on the music,
yes.
but the collective is more sort of like multimedia.
Audiovisual.
That's...
Yes. Well, you can see that actually coming through your work, because the music isn't a background to the visual, and the visual isn't a background to the music. It's kind of, it's a blend, isn't it?
I suppose. Would you like to answer that one?
So we sort of like process differently throughout the whole video. So sometimes we have the visuals first, sometimes music first, and it's all part of the narrative of our films. That's
very, very interesting.
I suppose every step along the way, in that sense, I think typically, we would all construct the narrative of the visual or the audio together, usually. But in terms of the editing phase, often it was more myself and Harry that dealt with a lot of visual elements, and Pablo just with ease of access to equipment,
the food,
sometimes just fuel, actually, because we need energy for our minds to...
The fire needs to burn.
Indeed it does, Cav. And of course, you understand that.
Well, I know you very, very well. So as a collective, who have you been influenced by? You can see many, many different elements coming through. Who?
The first person that comes to my mind, I think, has to be my mother, because she carried me for 9 months in her belly, and she like made my whole education. And she's a great, gorgeous, amazing, beautiful woman, and in that way,
And she's your musical influence.
she's my we can say she is.
How about the rest of the group?
Yeah, I suppose I'd sort of veer less towards my mother, maybe more towards the Residents. They're sort of a group of these guys like Iron heads, kind of very unknown, mysterious. That's maybe where some of the mask themes came with our work. And also the fact that their work is chapter based. Like they kind of have this audio-visual thing going on where they construct these sort of slightly surreal narratives maybe, and pair audio with them. So your Residents are a big influence, especially on my part.
Amelia Gerard. Really like Amelia Gerard.
Amelia Gerard, very interesting. So there's quite a lot of difference that you all kind of bring together to this one collective. It's very interesting. Very interesting.
Well, we think so.
Yes, well, other people might not think as much, but it's hard, isn't it, when you're making so many separate elements, but people want to categorize you as one thing. Do you experience this?
We never liked labels, name tags, or being put into boxes. We're more like looking towards breaking those boundaries, and see it as a unit in itself.
Yeah. I suppose what we've tried to construct is an alternative site for our music, an alternative site for music, if you will.
Right.
But through DIY means, and I suppose some people don't immediately gel with that. But sometimes you want to push, the boundaries of what people perceive to be music and what people perceive to be art in a general sense.
So by blending different types of media, What do you think is the end result? What is created?
So what is created is it's all like
A transmedial world.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
Transmedial world, yeah.
So for everyone individually.
I'd say we do like transmedial world.
Yeah.
So the point of access, each platform is accessible to every fan.
And every trans and media.
That is very interesting. And I believe that does come through in your films as well. So, Date, that is one of my favourites really.
Day,
You can tell me a little bit more about how that filming process came about and the music behind it.
Well, I think, you know, the amount of time we spent with each other, I believe there was a point when we realised that we really did love each other. And I think we wanted to represent that in an audiovisual context, in the context of a sort of traditional date scenario, a date night, if you will. And so we donned our masks and we made a nice chili. And yeah, and then there's a dancing scene at the end of it, which we thought was a way we could bring in more traditional musical concepts and, you know, like obviously like with dance in mind, you know. But in a very romantic sense, but equally a very alienated sense. This sort of romance that maybe would occur over lockdown scenarios, this kind of very closed off romance that maybe people might have if they're in long distance relationships over lockdown, other things like that.
So some people have been quite sceptical about your performance art and how much truth is actually behind the performance art. What do you think about that?
How do you measure truth?
How do you measure art?
It's a very hard question. I think it's all true. But how we wanted to make was that we wanted just to do. So rather have a conceptual idea before, we did have none of that. We were just trying to entertain ourselves in the midst of a pandemic. So it was just about doing and not thinking, and I mean that's quite profound, isn't it?
Ramshackle and haphazard and off the cuff.
And these are positives.
Positives, negatives, good people, bad people.
Shit happens.
Okay, yes, I have to, indeed. And by blending these different types of media, what do you think is created in the end? What do you have to hold when all this is said and done?
It's transmedia.
Transmedial,
Yeah.
What we found quite challenging was the how the audio and the visual can converge together. That was the massive challenge, because naturally we are all musicians, and going into this project we were not too skilled at the visual side of it, so that was the main challenge I found.
But
was
you,
matching those two.
you pushed yourself.
We pushed ourselves, so role-wise, Pablo mainly did the music and Kieran and I did the visuals. However, we switched roles, so Pablo actually filmed the date scene and edited it all, and I did the music for that, which switched roles so we were able to sort of teach each other and get better attributes out of the audiovisual sort of format.
Okay, so there's been a long history in the group. I just want to understand whereabouts all of this kind of started.
It was in the peak of lockdown, and we are all musicians naturally, but we were feeling very uninspired.
Yeah.
So instead of sort of coming up with a concept or anything, to start, it was just the idea of making, and that's why we started making, and it was sort of peak of lockdown.
So that kind of isolation, it brought something out in you all which you kind of express on screen and also through the music.
We let the subconscious sort of take over, and I think that's why a lot of the films that we've done, along with the music and the whole audio-visual thing that we've done for this film, sort of brings out a lot of the dark, I think, of lockdown.
I agree.
and the self-reflecting.
You can definitely see that. You can definitely see that in people I'm sitting in front of now. You've obviously gone through this process and you've arrived at this point now. Is the process what's been important for you?
Process is the most important.
I mean, the whole thing's been process-led, really. I mean, I suppose, yeah, in the running order of our practice, you know, it was the process and the motivation and the sort of vision that we had for each scene that led it, and editing was just something that came later and something that we improved upon.
Very interesting, very interesting. So, also, within sharing this work, it's been very separate from you as individuals. How have you tried to share this with the wider public, the wider audience?
Used social medias enough.
Sort of,
Instagram, YouTube.
yeah, utilising sort of, you know, modern technology, you know, while we can. I mean, I suppose that in itself is very reflective of the DIY process. You know, it's like, it's just that that immediacy that social media gives people. Yeah, and also creative people. I mean, like, we had a direct control over how we wanted to be represented.
Right.
And how we want the work to be represented. And I suppose that's like largely a freedom that has been upheld where other freedoms have been taken away in lockdown. So yeah, I'd say it's just the way that we distribute it was just like, it was an extension of that DIY ethic.
It's another portal for our thousands of fans to experience the work as well. So the films offer the film, but Instagram offers more to the personalities of the masked men. So it's a portal for our audiences to interact with, whilst also acting as like a scrapboard to see our own progress.
Yeah, like a documentation device and something that we can look back on, you know.
Of course. So now you're looking back on your careers and your films, your albums, what the things you've created. Are you happy? Have you reached a point where you can say this is in the past, we were the masked men?
That's exactly it. I think we can look at the film now and it reminds us of the time. Especially the earlier shots, earlier films. You can see where we were with film editing and where we were with composing music. But as the film goes on, I think you can see improvement, stylistic choices start to change. Because that was one principle that we, as a collective, told ourselves that we would stick by, is that the first draft is the last draft. And however cringed we were at how bad it was, it would be a failure to our audience if we painted too much on the canvas, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And yeah, I think generally, like, I think the process has not only offered us so much in terms of like the sort of gratification that we've received from watching these finished articles, but I suppose it's been a learning process, you know, and it's taught us how to reach certain areas of music, certain alternative areas of music that we otherwise wouldn't have reached if we hadn't done it through our own means and off our own backs, you know. So I suppose we can look at it with some distance now, and contextually things have changed. It's not as much of a lockdown as it once was.
I think if we made it now, it would be a lot happier.
It could well be, and less of a need to obscure our faces, because maybe less of a need to establish those masks in the first place.
Or maybe those demons will still be lurking. Who knows? It was all about unveiling the self-conscious.
I mean, you never know what's behind someone's mask. Yeah.
Yes, well, thank you for coming along to the show. It's been a pleasure as always to have a guest on here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming along.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks everyone. Thank you. Thank you. So that's it for the show. I hope you all enjoyed yourselves. We'll be here next week with another guest. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone. So we just have a few fan submissions for the questions to ask the masked men. This one's for you, Harry. What's your favourite food? Right. So